Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. I know you're feeling it. There's a shift happening in your life, and it's coming from a place you've been waiting for. You may not see it yet, but God has been moving pieces behind the scenes, aligning things in ways you can't even imagine. You've felt the restlessness, haven't you? That deep desire for change, that hunger to break free from the mundane. That's not just a passing thought. That's the voice of something greater calling you forward. You've been facing challenges and you've been pushing through them, even when it felt like you were walking alone. But let me tell you something. Those challenges aren't roadblocks. They're stepping stones. God is setting you up for something bigger, something powerful. You might be uncomfortable right now, feeling like you don't belong where you are, but guess what? That's the sign of a woman about to break out. I know you're seeing old faces pop up, people from your past coming around again. Don't get distracted by that. It's not about them. It's about you, and it's about the way God is orchestrating your life. He's about to shift you. When you feel the pull of something bigger, when you feel your heart stirring, that's God working in you. And let me tell you something. He doesn't call you to something He doesn't equip you for. So you better start walking with your head held high, because God is setting you up for favor you can't even imagine. That peace you've been feeling, even in the storm, that's God's assurance. He's telling you, I've got this. And as you begin to shed the weight of your past, of the things that held you back, you're going to start feeling lighter. You're going to start moving differently. You're going to start seeing opportunities you never noticed before. And you're going to walk in them with confidence because you know who you are. You know you're chosen. God's not about to let you stay in that place where you're uncomfortable. He's about to move you to higher ground. And you'll look back and see that every challenge, every obstacle, every trial was just a part of His plan to elevate you. Don't let the enemy's noise distract you. Those attacks, they're just proof that you're on the brink of something amazing. So keep pushing, keep believing, because this shift is real and it's yours. All you've got to do is take that step forward. God's about to do something incredible in your life, and it's going to change everything. So get ready. Get ready to rise. God's timing is perfect. It may not always align with our own expectations, but it never fails to be exactly what we need when we need it. Sometimes we find ourselves in seasons of waiting for a breakthrough, a relationship, a career move, a sign. And in those moments, it's easy to question whether anything is happening at all. But that's where faith comes in, because while we're waiting, God is working. He's moving pieces, adjusting circumstances, softening hearts, building strength within us and preparing us for what's ahead. He knows the exact moment when you'll be ready, not just ready to receive, but ready to carry the weight of the blessing without letting it break you. We live in a world of instant results, but divine timing is about development, not convenience. Sometimes God delays something not to deny you, but to develop. Maybe you're not quite ready yet. Maybe the environment isn't ready. Maybe someone connected to your journey is still being prepared. When you look back on moments that felt like missed opportunities or painful detours, you often see how they led you to something greater than you expected. That's the perfection of God's timing. It considers every detail, every consequence, every connection. Even in the silence, even in the setbacks, God is not late. He's intentional. And when the shift begins, it's swift and undeniable. You suddenly realize why certain doors didn't open, why certain people walked away, why you had to walk through the fire to get to where you are now. Every delay was preparation. Every moment was part of a divine countdown. You weren't forgotten. You were being refined. Trusting in His timing means releasing the urge to control and surrendering to the process, knowing He sees the full picture when all we see is a single frame. A sense of restlessness is often the first quiet whisper that something within you is shifting. It's that tug in your spirit that says, there's more. Even when everything around you looks fine, you could be in a season where things seem stable, predictable, maybe even successful by the world's standards, but inside, there's a stirring. You start feeling disconnected from things that once brought you comfort. The routines, the relationships, the habits, they no longer satisfy the deeper part of you. You're not being ungrateful, you're being awakened. God uses restlessness not to punish, but to prompt. He uses it as a signal that where you are is no longer where you're meant to stay. This kind of restlessness doesn't come with clear instructions. It's subtle, like an itch you can't scratch. You might feel like something is missing, but you can't quite name it. That's because it's not about something external. It's your soul recognizing that your current season is coming to a close. The restlessness isn't just discomfort. It's divine. It's God preparing your heart for transition. He knows that if he let you get too comfortable, you'd settle. And you weren't created to settle. You were created to grow, to evolve, to walk boldly into purpose. When that restlessness starts creeping in, it's not the time to ignore it or numb it. It's the time to listen, to lean in, to ask God what he's trying to reveal. You might not have all the answers, but that feeling is not without purpose. It's pulling you towards something greater, something unfamiliar, but necessary. That unease is the space between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's the holy tension that comes before the shift. It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough in disguise. You're encountering new challenges, and at first it may feel like life is piling on more than you can handle. Things that used to come easily now take more effort. Obstacles you've never faced before start showing up in places that once felt safe. It's tempting to think something's gone wrong, that maybe you've taken a wrong turn. But what if the challenges aren't a sign you're off track? What if they're proof you're right where you're supposed to be? Growth doesn't happen in comfort. When God is preparing to shift your life, he stretches you first. And stretching doesn't feel good, but it's necessary. These new challenges are sharpening you. They're revealing strengths you didn't know you had and weaknesses you can't afford to carry into your next season. God isn't being cruel, he's being intentional. Each challenge is a test, a refining process, a moment to build endurance, patience, faith. You may feel overwhelmed, but you're also being equipped. You're not facing these things by accident. They are a part of your preparation. The bigger the purpose, the more pressure it takes to prepare you to carry it. You'll notice that as you press into these trials, you begin to think differently. You react differently. You pray more. You trust deeper. That's not weakness, it's transformation. And that transformation wouldn't have come without the challenge. Don't mistake difficulty for divine silence. God is speaking through the struggle, molding your character, reshaping your mindset, increasing your capacity. The very resistance you're facing is confirmation that you're being elevated. What feels like an attack is actually alignment. What feels like a detour is part of the design. These new challenges aren't here to stop you. They're here to strengthen the woman you're becoming. People from your past are reappearing, and at first, it might seem random. You run into someone you haven't seen in years. An old friend reaches out unexpectedly, or a name you thought you had buried in your memory suddenly shows up in your messages. But with God, there's no such thing as coincidence. When he's getting ready to shift your life, he often allows certain people to re-enter, not to rewind the story, but to either bring closure, offer clarity, or serve as confirmation. Sometimes the return of a familiar face is meant to show you just how much you've grown. It's not always about rekindling relationships. Often, it's about recognizing the difference between who you were and who you are now. This reappearance can also serve as a mirror. Some people are sent back into your life so you can see what you've healed from. That old relationship that used to shake you, now you can face it without fear. That person who once made you question your worth, now their presence only confirms how far you've come. And in some cases, they're back because they're part of what's next. God may be reconnecting you for collaboration, restoration, or even to fulfill a purpose that couldn't happen back then. But not everyone is meant to stay. Some returns are temporary tests to see if you'll repeat old patterns or stand firm in your growth. You'll feel it in your spirit. Some connections will bring peace and alignment, while others will trigger what you've already released. Trust your discernment. God allows these moments to fine-tune your vision. As your life shifts, your circle shifts too. Who you let in matters more now than ever. So when people from your past show up again, pay attention. They're not just visitors. They're signals of transition. You're feeling a deeper calling, one that you can't quite explain, but you can't ignore either. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, persistent. It shows up in moments when the world is still, when you're alone with your thoughts, when something inside you whispers that you were made for more. You can't go back to the way things were. The dreams you used to chase don't satisfy you anymore. The routines that once felt comfortable now feel empty. And the things that used to be enough no longer feel aligned with who you're becoming. That's not restlessness. That's not boredom. That's calling. God is awakening something within you that's been dormant, something sacred, something eternal. You feel a pull toward purpose, a tug on your soul that keeps showing up in conversations, in scripture, in quiet moments of reflection. It's a calling that's not defined by titles or applause. It's deeper than that. It's about impact. It's about truth. It's about stepping into the identity God has been shaping in you all along. And even though it's unfamiliar, it feels right. You may not know all the steps, but something inside of you knows it's time to start moving. This calling might scare you. It might feel bigger than what you think you can handle, but that's the beauty of it. It requires faith. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And if He's placing that weight in your spirit, it's because He's already placed the strength in your soul. The deeper the calling, the greater the transformation that follows. You're being set apart for something sacred, something significant. And the closer you get to it, the more you'll begin to realize that your voice, your story, your life was never random. It was always meant for this. There's something sacred about experiencing peace when everything around you is falling apart. It doesn't make sense to the world, but it makes perfect sense to your spirit. When God is about to shift your life, one of the most undeniable signs is an unusual calm in the middle of chaos. Bills might be stacking up, relationships might be breaking down, doors might be closing left and right, but somehow you're not panicking. Somehow you're still standing. You're not numb, you're not in denial. You just know deep down that you're held, that you're covered, that God is in control even when everything else is not. This kind of peace can't be manufactured. It doesn't come from self-help books or positive affirmations. It's supernatural. It's the kind of peace that Philippians 4:7 talks about, the peace that surpasses all understanding. It shows up when your heart should be heavy, but it's light. When you should be anxious, but you're anchored. It's not that the chaos isn't real, it's that your faith has grown bigger than your fear. And that's not weakness, that's evidence. Evidence that something inside you has shifted before anything around you has. This peace is a quiet confirmation that God is doing something behind the scenes. It's like your soul already knows what your eyes haven't seen yet, that there's purpose in the storm, that the shaking is making space for something greater. You may not have the answers, but you've got assurance. You may not see the full path, but you feel the presence of the one guiding your steps. And that peace, it's your anchor. It holds you steady when the winds are trying to knock you off course. It's not the absence of chaos, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. A shift in perspective is one of the clearest signs that God is moving in your life. Suddenly, the things that used to frustrate you don't carry the same weight. You start seeing people differently, not just for who they are, but for what they're carrying, both their pain and their potential. You begin to look at your struggles through a lens of purpose instead of punishment. What once felt like a burden now feels like preparation. This isn't just positive thinking, it's divine clarity. It's the moment when God begins to open your spiritual eyes and you realize that the situation hasn't changed, but you have. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing grace over judgment. Sometimes it's realizing that the delay wasn't a denial, it was divine protection. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That's the moment you step into maturity. That's when God knows you're ready for more. Because before He changes your situation, He often changes your sight. He shifts the way you interpret the world, the way you value time, the way you understand pain. You stop chasing what looks good and start seeking what is good. You stop measuring success by what you accumulate and start measuring it by how much peace you carry. That shift in thinking brings freedom. It breaks chains that used to bind your decisions. It silences voices that used to control your worth. And it aligns your heart with God's purpose instead of the world's pressure. When your perspective changes, you realize that nothing has to change around you for everything to be different within you. That's how you know God is doing a deeper work, when you see with new eyes before you even step into a new season. New opportunities are appearing, and they're not just random, they're strategic. Doors are opening that you didn't knock on. People are mentioning your name in rooms you haven't stepped into yet. Emails, calls, conversations, things are aligning in ways you couldn't have orchestrated yourself. It's not luck. It's not chance. It's God making moves behind the scenes, setting the stage for what He's prepared you for. These opportunities may not even look the way you expected. They might come wrapped in unfamiliar settings, different roles, or places that stretch you. But deep down, you know they carry weight. You can feel that these moments are not just options, they're invitations. When God starts to shift your life, He begins to place divine opportunities in your path to push you forward. These aren't just chances to succeed, they're chances to trust. Because every opportunity from God also comes with a decision. Will you move in faith or will you stay in fear? That's the test. These open doors are not about proving yourself, they're about walking in alignment. And when your spirit is in tune, you'll notice the difference between distractions and divine direction. You'll know what's sent to elevate you and what's sent to detour you. You may feel unqualified, you may feel unsure, but God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. That opportunity that just showed up at your feet, it's not just about what you can do, it's about what He's about to do through you. Pay attention to what's coming your way, even if it looks small. Some of the biggest shifts begin with the smallest yes. These opportunities are proof that your season is changing, that favor is following you, and that the things you once prayed for are beginning to manifest right in front of you. You are shedding old weight, and it's not just physical, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. The things that used to hold you back don't feel as heavy anymore. The opinions that once shaped your identity now pass through you without sticking. You're no longer carrying everyone else's expectations like a badge of honor. You're starting to understand that not everything or everyone can come with you into your next season. And that realization is both freeing and painful, but it's necessary. Growth always requires release. You're beginning to recognize which habits, thought patterns, and relationships have been keeping you stuck. The need to always be strong, to always be liked, to always be in control. Those weights are falling off piece by piece. You're not as quick to react. You're slower to carry offense. You're learning that peace is more valuable than proving a point. That's the shift. That's God pruning you, refining you, making room for what He's about to pour into your life, because elevation requires separation. And sometimes what you're shedding isn't bad. It's just no longer aligned with who you're becoming. It might feel like loss, but it's really preparation. Just like a tree lets go of its leaves before new growth appears, you're releasing what's dead to make space for what's alive. And it doesn't happen all at once. Some weight you drop easily, other weight fights to stay. But God is patient and He's persistent. He knows what's needed for the journey ahead. What used to define you no longer has a place in your story. You're no longer trying to fit into old versions of yourself. You're no longer bending to fit where you've outgrown. And every time you let go of something that no longer serves your purpose, you step closer to the woman God is calling you to be. You experience divine favor, and it doesn't look like luck. It looks like alignment. Things start falling into place that you didn't force. Doors open before you knock. Resources show up right when you need them. People cross your path with exactly what your spirit was searching for. It's not a coincidence, it's confirmation. You walk into rooms you once only dreamed of, and you realize you didn't get there by charm or chance, but by grace. Divine favor isn't about striving harder, it's about walking in purpose. It's not always flashy, but it's always timely. It's God breathing on your efforts and multiplying them beyond what you thought possible. Favor shows up when you're faithful in the unseen places, when you're consistent even when no one's clapping, when you say yes to obedience before you see the reward. That's when God starts putting your name in places you've never been. He starts unlocking things for you that have been locked for generations. He moves mountains that don't make sense to move, and people look at you and wonder, how did she get that opportunity? But they don't see the prayer. They don't see the wilderness. They don't see the surrender. Divine favor doesn't mean everything gets easy. It means everything starts to work for your good. It might feel strange at first to be chosen, to be blessed in places you once felt invisible. But that's how God works. He takes the overlooked and makes them undeniable. He takes the underestimated and uses them to shift atmospheres. Favor doesn't make you better than anyone. It makes you responsible for more. It comes with weight, with purpose, with impact. And when you begin to move in it, you don't have to explain yourself. You just walk like you know who sent you, because you do. You start feeling uncomfortable in your current situation, and at first, it's unsettling. What once felt familiar now feels confining. The routines that used to give you a sense of security now make you feel like you're suffocating. It's like your spirit is outgrowing the space you're in, and no matter how hard you try to settle back into it, it doesn't fit anymore. This discomfort isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is shifting. It's the first whisper that you've outgrown this season, and that growth always brings a stretch. God is stirring something within you, making you restless because he's preparing you for what's next. It's easy to ignore this feeling, to numb it with distractions, or force yourself to accept the familiar as your new normal. But the more you ignore it, the louder it gets. The discomfort doesn't go away, it intensifies, because it's not about your circumstances, it's about your soul's awakening. The season you're in is no longer aligned with the woman you're becoming. And the more you fight it, the more God continues to nudge you out of your comfort zone, pushing you toward your purpose. This unease is the beginning of your transformation. It's God's way of saying it's time for you to move forward. It might mean changing a job, moving to a new place, or walking away from relationships that no longer serve your growth. The discomfort is your spirit's way of telling you that it's time to step into something bigger, something more aligned with your divine purpose. Embrace it, because this discomfort is what prepares you for the next chapter, the next opportunity, the next version of yourself that's waiting to emerge. You begin to outgrow certain people and environments, and at first it feels like a quiet shift. You may not even notice it right away, but slowly, the things that once felt like home no longer fit you. Conversations that used to bring you joy now feel draining. The places where you used to find comfort now feel limiting. The people who were once your closest companions no longer align with your values, dreams, or energy. It's not that you've changed into someone else. It's that your growth has outpaced what's around you. You're evolving, and what once nourished you now feels like it's holding you back. This isn't about judgment, it's about alignment. As you grow, you begin to see that not everyone is meant to accompany you on every part of your journey. Some people are in your life for a season, a lesson, or a chapter. They help shape who you were, but they aren't equipped to walk with you into the new season God is leading you toward. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means your paths are diverging. You might find that certain relationships feel like they're pulling you backward instead of pushing you forward. And while it's painful, there's a peace that comes with understanding that not all relationships are meant to last forever. God isn't asking you to abandon people. He's asking you to release attachments that are holding you down. Some environments no longer foster your growth. And just as a plant needs the right soil to flourish, you need the right people and places to thrive. The discomfort you feel in outgrowing certain situations is just a sign that you're stepping into a higher level of purpose, one where you can't carry old baggage if you want to soar. Trust that the people meant for this next chapter will show up, and they'll help propel you forward rather than keep you stagnant. A greater level of spiritual warfare can manifest when you're on the brink of a major breakthrough. As you step into a new season, a new purpose, or a new calling, the resistance you face intensifies. You feel it in your spirit. There's an unseen battle taking place, one that's not always visible on the surface, but you can sense the weight of it. The attacks might come in different forms: doubt, fear, confusion, or distractions that seem to derail your focus. The closer you get to your destiny, the more the enemy fights to keep you from stepping into your full potential. It's not a coincidence. The enemy targets what is most valuable. When you are about to elevate, when God is about to shift things in your favor, the forces of darkness try to prevent that from happening. You might experience inner turmoil, negative thoughts, or even external conflicts that feel like they're coming from every direction. But this increased spiritual warfare is a sign that you are a threat to the enemy's plans. It's a reminder that you are walking in alignment with God's purpose for your life. The enemy only fights what he fears, and the fact that you're feeling the pressure means you're moving closer to your breakthrough. In these moments, you must rely on the strength of God more than ever. The battle is not yours to fight alone, but His. The more you press into Him, the more you put on the armor of faith, prayer, and the Word, the more you'll see the battle shift in your favor. Spiritual warfare isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. Every challenge is an opportunity to deepen your faith, strengthen your resolve, and walk in the authority God has given you. Keep fighting, because the victory is already yours.